Welcome back, everyone. My name's Kyle. This is going to be a different video. It's still going to be on a tractor. We got it right here behind me, but not your typical repair job. This tractor is a bit special and it has a whole story behind it, and I do want to sell it, but I thought it'd be fun to make a video on it, explain the story, who used to own it, do this thing some justice and get it running and looking pretty good, and then off to a new owner. So we'll take a look here. This is my tarp storage. I got it propped open, but let's check out this old 1969 wheel horse Commando 8. I think you're gonna like it. Here she is. It is not all that pretty. It's pretty beat up in the seat, but this is an original. Pretty much all original 1969 wheel horse Commando 8. It's got the 8 horsepower Kohler, and it has a 38-inch, I believe it's 38, might be 36, 38-inch mowing deck, and this thing is running, driving, and mowing. Of course, it's been sitting here in storage probably for a year. I don't think I've run it in 12 months, but it should run. So our job today is to get it running, get it back up top to the shed to do some work on it, probably replace the seat, clean this thing up as best we can, and try to get it sold. But in the meantime, we're going to enjoy it just a little bit, and I'll tell you all about the machine, and hopefully we got ourselves a nice running tractor at the end. Alright, we have a booster pack on. I mean, what are the chances this thing runs? It's going to be pretty interesting if this thing just fires right off, but this thing has always run great for me and has always started pretty easy too. Well, it's in gear. Alright, there we go. Get it out of gear. Pulling on the choke. Battery pack doesn't sound like it's turned this over too good. Oh yeah. Take the choke off. All right, choke back on. Take the throttle down. Smoking on this side. We're getting it to fire. It definitely wants choke. Give it a bit more throttle. This thing's sweet. Well, she runs just like I remember. Oh, you want power. Okay. I was gonna try to take that pack off. Boy, that thing runs great. All right, let's get this thing in some light so you can see it better. It's pretty tight in here. Put it first. Cut the wheel a bit. Got my holding my tarp, so this is going to come down on us. That's all right. Hang in there, guys. Hang in there, YouTube. All right, got my tripod. You're seeing it all now. Well, we got it in the shed, no problem. It's idling away here. Well, like I said, it's going to be a little bit of a different video. I'm not going to, I don't need to do much as far as repair on this, although I am going to address a few things and service it. But really, this video is more going to be about enjoying this tractor. So I'll show you a few oddities with this thing and tell you a little bit about it. So for a little story and background on this tractor. So there's this old timer who used to go to my church, and great guy. Really well respected man, and was highly involved in our church, and obviously he was much older than me. I didn't like hang out with him or anything like that, but we knew each other. He knew I was into machines, and he moved away from our church to live with his son a number of years ago. And when he moved away, he said, "Hey Kyle, I have this old tractor that I mowed my lawn with. I actually have this old one and I have this newer one. I want to give the newer one to my son, but the older one I'd like to give to you if you have any use for it." And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Turned out, a little while later, my brother and I went over to his place to check out the tractor that he wanted to give me. He was moving out of his house at that time, but he was gracious enough to show me the tractor and talk about it a little bit. And, just to let you know about this old timer, he was an engineer type guy, very meticulous, and he cared for this thing like you wouldn't believe. So there was a local power equipment repair shop near him, and he would take this thing to that store when it showed any sign that it needed, something mechanical needed to be addressed. He told us this story. He said, "One time I went to go and start it, and it didn't start up right away, so I brought it to the shop." I was like, wow, that's some pretty good care for such an old machine, and he had really high standards. So he kept care of this thing, and it's really a testament to him that something from 1969 is still fully operational, still a pretty cool machine. So anyway, he passed away just a little while ago. That's what made me think of this tractor. I wanted to fulfill what he wanted for me in keeping care of this tractor, and I feel like I've done that. While he was living, I held onto this tractor. I would use it with my kids. They'd sit on my lap. We'd drive around the yard. I'd tow a little cart with it, put them in the back of the cart. This tractor's been a lot of fun with my family, and I think that's what he would have wanted. But like I said, he passed away a little while ago, a couple weeks ago. I don't feel like I need to hold on to it any longer than I have. I think it's time to get this to someone who can appreciate this machine even more than me, someone who maybe will restore it or just plain use it. Basically sits in my shed once or twice a year. I start it up. I think this thing deserves a little bit better. So that's where we're at. That's the story on this tractor. I think that's pretty cool. I'm mostly a tractor flipper, so the stories behind the tractors are not usually sentimental. It's just, hey, give me that tractor and let me make a profit on it. That's not necessarily the case with this one, but it should have some value for sure. Hard to tell, really. There's not many like this, as far as I can tell. I'm looking on Craigslist across the country. I'm looking on Facebook Marketplace as wide as I can get. In Connecticut, I can't really find a Wheel Horse Commando 8 with a mowing deck that runs and drives and mows. I can't really even find that tractor out there. I'm sure there are, but you can find some that are just like a skeleton, or they have no mowing deck, or they don't run, or whatever the case is. This is not in immaculate condition. It's basically in original condition, and that could be interesting to someone because they could restore it. Sometimes, once you restore something, then it's not original. I don't know. So the value on this is going to be, I'm curious to see what I can get for this tractor. A couple hundred for sure. It's not going to be worth $1,000. $500 to $800 is sort of what I'm thinking. I'm not really sure. So we'll have to test the waters on that. But anyway, yeah, just rambling a little bit about it. But what I'm going to do to it right now is get it going, make sure that it's running good, make sure it's driving and mowing good. I'm going to service the engine. Maybe I'll service the trans oil too. We'll see how easy that is. We'll just check on it. We'll clean it up. It's covered in like just a film of kind of mold and grime, and so I'm just going to clean it best I can. Take some photos and put it on Facebook, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, but let me show you some interesting things that this old timer has done to this tractor to kind of make it his own and to mow with it on his property the way that he wanted to. So I'll show you what he did to it. So first thing you might have noticed are these wooden bumpers on the mowing deck. He had them on both sides, and you can kind of tell what that's for, and you could tell what it's done for this machine, honestly, is it's kept this machine from rubbing up against any, edging or, stones or rocks or driveway curbs or whatever. It's allowed him to mow his yard without damaging the mowing deck. So it looks a little goofy. You could tell he thought about things and did things right. And looks a little goofy, but it's very practical. So that was one thing. Another thing I think is kind of interesting is, again, you see a little block here that's to kind of help the hood, to like a hood stop. So the hood doesn't overextend and break the hinges. But then you have this very interesting piece of iron and eye hooks here. It's like a counterweight for the front. So I think he just had some hills and noticed it was a lot better to have weight up front so the thing didn't tip. But I plan on leaving all of this stuff. It's a little odd, but again, this is the justice I'm trying to do to this tractor, is to leave it the way he had it. Get a little bit of, that's coming off, but a little bit of labeling of some of the wires here, but not a big deal. Yeah, I mean that's about it. I got this from him and mowed with it a little bit, and then I had one of the spindles on the mowing deck break, and I searched and searched and eventually found a parts mowing deck, bought it for too much money, and robbed that spindle and put it back on, and now the mowing deck is fully functional again. But basically I had no problems with this thing ever. A few things that don't work. This light has never worked. This is like either an operation light or a low oil light. I think it's like a battery charging light, not sure, but it doesn't work. The cigarette lighter, yeah, that's right, it has a cigarette lighter. That doesn't work. The throttle likes to drift on you a little bit. It sinks in over time. It's supposed to be able to twist and lock it, but it just kind of is worn out. So every once in a while you just have to pull the throttle back up. Yeah. So that's about it with this thing. Besides that, it just runs like a top. So I think I changed the oil one time on it, but let's get the oil changed. I think I'll go out and get a battery for it, and then the seat. My MTD seat looks very familiar to this, so I might steal my own seat from my own tractor and throw it on this thing, or I might go out to Tractor Supply and see if I can find one. I know they have some ones that are kind of like this, but obviously this thing would look a lot better without this seat on it. Alright, should we do the oil first? So here's the oil drain right here. Fits a 19 millimeter socket, fits right on there. And we'll drain it into a little bucket. On top, 14 millimeter wrench. We'll get that. This is the fill, or the dipstick. Just gonna let it vent a little bit, let it drain a bit easier. This is how these old Kohlers do it. Let's get the air cover off. So, I don't know what the chances are if I can find this filter in the stores, but I'll give it a try. Yeah, a bit lean there. We'll replace that. That's just an old auto light. Got the old battery out of there. I think it's hard to get it in there. I don't know why, but it's hard to get the battery connections on that thing and slide it in. This thing's always been a pain, and I've pretty much always had a dead battery on this thing. I think it'd be nice to actually get a very good battery for this. I'm gonna try to drain the gas tank. I know this fuel has been in here for a really long time. There we go. quite sure how much gas is in here, but it doesn't look terrible. It didn't smell all that bad, but it's probably 3-year-old gas. And we'll go ahead and put a new filter on there. And we'll add a little fresh fuel. Just a little spark plug talk for a minute. This is the Autolite plug that came out of there. 458 is the marking on there. So I have a new Autolite. I know obviously like it's a little different, right? But the threaded part is the same depth. And that's obviously one of the more important parts. Make sure you don't bump into like the valve or the cylinder. But it's not the same number, so I probably won't go with that. It looks like, you know, just like a Champion RJ19LM would work. It looks, I guess it's not. Yeah, the threaded portion's the same. Yeah, so it would, that's probably comparable, but you know, you look it up online and, you know, there's all these arguments on the forums about what plugs. People get crazy about spark plugs. This is a Champion J8C. Apparently that's the right plug to use. So I'll see if I can go out and find that. A little different than what was in there, but you know, you can't always go by what was in there. That's the thing. A lot of people do that. They just replace the one that was in there. But you got to really look it up and see what was supposed to go in there. Pretty easy thing to change out. A lot of people will just change out plugs, but they don't always put the right one back in. Just starting to clean this a little bit. I just put new oil in it and I degreased a bit of the engine block and wiped that down by hand. But I kind of have a new plan for this. I think I'm going to try to take it to a car wash. My power washer is not set up and this thing desperately needs a power wash. But I'm a little afraid to like hit the engine area, so I did some of that by hand. But the rest of this should be able to lightly do at a car wash with a power washer arm. But yeah, you can see this is like coming out pretty good. But there's just so much grit on this. And the wheels and everything, like especially this one, gonna be really hard to clean. So I might load this up on the trailer. It's New Year's Day, but it looks like the self-service car washes are open, as far as I can tell. So I might hit a couple miles down the road and see if we can do that there. But before we go, I do want to finish a few things off here at home. So I want to take this seat off, and you can tilt this whole thing back. And I believe there's just 4 13mm bolts to take off. But let's take this seat off real quick and just see, you know, what might be comparable to this or something I can throw onto this fender. We're on the trailer and you can tell I have the seat off. I'm going to try to make 2 stops while I'm out, and we'll go to the car wash, see if they have a self-service power washer I can use, and then we'll see if we can go to Tractor Supply and find a seat and buy a few other things. But yeah, I'll show you some car wash footage in just a moment. Let's do a grease. Do that? Okay, car wash complete.
Yeah.
You can see I just sort of did this just to keep some of the electrical and the intake from getting soaked. So hopefully that helped. Put some rubber gloves in the intake there. I'll put that air cover back on before I hit the road, but yeah, that cleaned up pretty good. No, not perfect, but definitely knocked down a large amount of the grease and grime. This thing really is a prime candidate for a nice restoration, I think. But not something I'm going to do. Get some of the water off the lens. Yeah, so that's how we're looking. All right, let's get it on the road and it'll air dry. We're back from the car wash. It air dried pretty nicely. And I just stopped by Tractor Supply and got a replacement seat and some other things that we needed. Battery, some shine spray, the correct spark plug. And here's our seat. It's a little smaller, but I actually think it's going to look more correct. I don't know if this was the original seat. Not quite sure, but it's quite wide. But this should bolt right up, and this was not in a box. And I got it for a little bit of a discount because it was scratched a bit back here. So yeah, I don't know, it was like a $150 seat with a bit of a discount. So yeah, I spent way too much money at Tractor Supply with the battery and the seat. But this thing deserves it, right? So here's the new seat, all bolted up, and my daughter helped me hold this fender like that so we can bolt this. But yeah, I think that's pretty nice. It actually looks a little bit better on the machine, I think. More what you would expect. So the first start after a power wash is always the hardest. Sometimes some water gets in the intake and it doesn't want to start. But we got the new battery in, the new spark plug is in. Let's see if it fires off. Well, that's going to do it for this tractor. I've done a few things off camera that you didn't get to see. I greased everything that had a fitting. I topped off the trans fluid. I actually looked up this model number. I mean, of course I did a long time ago, but it's not a 1969, it's a 1968. So Wheel Horse made these Commando 8s only in 68 and 69. So this is the first year production. So pretty cool. I'm really happy with how this cleaned up. Obviously it's functioning great. That's all I really wanted, was something that worked the way it should, looked as good as it can, and we'll get this off to someone who can appreciate it again. Well, thanks guys for watching this video. I know this one was a little bit different, but hopefully we slowed it down a bit and appreciated the story and the tractor. Hope you guys liked the video and subscribe to the channel. Plenty more stuff coming out. We'll see you guys next time.